Let's save our credit for Steve until we're done with the meeting. All right, welcome everyone. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome everyone to the March 15th City Council meeting in the City of Windham. This evening we'll start with the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the council meeting on March 1st, Telecom Commission, February 28th, Planning Commission, March 8th. Licenses included are the amplification permit for Plaza Jalisco patio. Also included are the regular bills. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'd make a motion to accept the to accept the consent agenda.
No, second.
Motion Jason, seconded by Marv. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I am going to scroll this down a bit to page 29. First item on the agenda are the public hearings. First one being the TIF spending plan. I believe Drew is going to take the stand here. And council, please ask me what all you would like up on the screen if you notice that I'm not in the right spot tonight. Gotcha. I do have the page numbers written down, but okay.
Drew Hagee, Development Director. So on the starting on page 34 of your packet is the memo for the TIF spending plan. We previously discussed this. This would be the tool for funding the Semstone redevelopment project. So, you know, we have funds that are available for redevelopment that come from TIF District 1-19, which is the Toro side of the North Windham Industrial Park. And we called for the public hearing to be held tonight on this. So what we would be doing is utilizing those funds for financing the Semstone redevelopment project. When you're looking at it, this is something that Ellers put together. So if you scroll down, the plan is relatively straightforward. One more page. That is the first page, and then the second page there goes into kind of the purpose of this and how you can do this, and states that, you know, redevelopment is one of the eligible uses of these funds. Just background again, the funds that we were able to move forward the North Windham Industrial Park with came from the PM Beef revolving loan fund and that kind of TIF. So, you know, we've been revolving these funds for different projects. So, you know, the goal would be to reimburse ourselves when you have excess TIF increment from the Semstone TIF district, which is 1-22. So, you know, we buy the property over the course of the, and I'll go into more detail with this once we get into some of the development agreements as well, but the surplus increment, because you have, you know, another potential market rate apartment, you have lake lots, back lots, you have a lot of new tax revenue you generate from that. So over the 20-year period that we're looking at, we're estimating to have $2.4 million of SX increment. So, you know, we'd be to reimburse the EDA back for these funds and then hopefully revolve it onto another project and just keep these funds moving. You know, so the EDA did discuss this as well, and the motion from the EDA is to move forward with the TIF spending plan as presented. I can answer any questions if you have any.
Does the council have any questions for Drew? You will have one more opportunity after we take care of the hearing.
I have one question. In regards to TIF districts, it seems to me that this is one of the better uses of TIF of all the other ones that I've seen so far because of how dramatic the rise will be once everything clears past that point.
And that's probably not as much on the TIF district other than the piece of property. So that 34 acres, there's a lot of potential right now. You know, it was used as a concrete plant. It was used as a quarry. It's now an obsolete quarry. The plant is rather old, needs to be replaced. So there's not a lot of value on that placed by, you know, the county assessor. So when you have a new subdivision with an apartment, that's a lot of investment. So, I mean, you have a big change in tax value. So you capture that change and are able to use it for other purposes that are TIF eligible.
One question I have, is there an amount put on this one? Or does that go into the development agreement is where that would be taken care of, right?
So we're not in the development agreements. This is just for the TIF spending plan to authorize that we can use TIF dollars for buying the property.
And for what purposes that it can be used for?
Yep, and that's
Correct.
one of the purposes it can be used for.
Thank you.
So the TIF spending plan outlines that, you know, it's the 500,000 that we would use from TIF District 1-19 for property acquisition, which is a TIF eligible cost in TIF District 1-22, which is the Sumstone redevelopment TIF district.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no more hands up for questions at this point, we will open the public hearing to the public. This hearing is open regarding the spending plan for TIF District 1-19 Northwest Industrial Park -2. Public comment. Once again, we'll ask for public comment. And one more time, seeing none, I will ask Drew and staff, have we had any writing or verbal concerns with this that should be noted in the hearing minutes?
I have not received any feedback regarding the TIF spending plan.
Thank you. With that, we're going to close the hearing. Hearing is closed. Council wish to ask any further questions? If not, there is a resolution in your packet, which is on page 34. The resolution approving spending plan for Wyndham Tax Increment Financing, District Number 1-19, Northwest Industrial Park 2.
I'd like to introduce this resolution approving a spending plan for the Wyndham Tax Increment Financing District Number 1-19, Northwest Industrial 2.
I'll second.
Resolution introduced by Jason and seconded, I believe it was Jenny. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? I will call the roll. Nelson,
Yes.
Quaid,
Yes.
Farag,
Yes.
Grunig,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
and that is unanimous. Thank you. We will move on now to the residential tax abatement. Okay, and Drew, would you please review the information, please?
This is just a regular tax abatement through the Cottonwood County Home Initiative. We introduced this at the previous meeting, so we're holding the public hearing today for a new single-family home to be built at 1965 Norwood Avenue. And the estimated 5-year tax abatement for this, for the city's portion, is $5,610. I can answer any questions that you have.
We've been through this before, but this is a site-specific topic here. Does the council have any questions?
I'm just confirming everything, all the paperwork's been in and it's all proper.
Correct.
Okay. Hearing no other questions, I will open the public hearing regarding this. The hearing is open. I would entertain any of the public who wants to speak to come forward. Once again, any comments from the public? Hearing none, we're going to close the public hearing. I'm assuming there was no comments.
There were no comments.
Thank you. With that, you have a resolution included as a next step in this process. Someone care to introduce a resolution?
I would introduce a resolution for the residential tax abatement at 1965 Norway Avenue.
Second.
Resolution introduced by Jenny, seconded by Jason. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Sherman,
Yes.
Farag,
Yes.
Quaid,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Grunick,
Yes.
and that resolution carries. Thank you. Department heads. Anyone like to speak? I think most of them have a place on the agenda tonight. So, okay, we're good on department heads. Okay, we're going to move to page 44. And this item, once again, is Drew's. These will be recommendations, I guess, that's already been acted on by the EDA, and they include, the first one is DVK Diversified LLC. And Drew, would you give a report on that, please?
So this is for the development agreement for the proposed South Cottonwood Lake subdivision, which is the existing Sunstone property. DVK Diversified LLC is Voss Plumbing and Heating. This is their LLC for doing development projects. So this was the developer that was selected for the subdivision by the EDA, and it's also the EDA's recommendation to move forward with the development agreement. The high-level terms of the development agreement for Voss, they requested $155,000 for the lift station and backup generator. They do a land payment to the EDA of $238,000. And then they also, the total TIF that they're requesting is $400,000. But of that, again, we get $238,000 as a land payment there. So that is the request. And as one of the tabs, if Dominic, if you wanted to go to the contract for redevelopment, that tab there, yeah. So this is a legal document that was prepared by Ellers, who is our TIF attorney. And if we can just scroll through that, once we get to page 2, I mean, keep going. Right there. So about halfway down the page there, I'm just highlighting some of the things in the development agreement. This is a pretty standardized document. Specifically for this agreement, I'll refer quite a bit to the attachment I will get to, which is Exhibit C, and has a number of the core elements of this. This was all reviewed by the EDA, and it's the EDA's recommendation that we move forward with the development agreement. The compliance term for this is 2 years. That is the goal, to have substantial completion done of the minimal improvements. And I'll go into the minimal improvements in a little bit. The completion date, expecting to have Voss have the subdivision done by October 1st, 2025. Their expectation to have it done, right away in 2022. They want to get going on this is right away. They see demand for housing. The owner, or one of the owners of Voss Plumbing and Heating, did attend our previous EDA meeting and presented on this as well. And so Marv and Jim and Dominic can share if they would like after we kind of go through this some, but did talk through that. If you go to page 3, the next page there, the minimal improvements are in section 2.3, but then that refers to the attachment that I'll get to. The purchase price again is the $238,000. If we go to the next page, it does give some unavoidable delays. If there's lots of different things, bad weather, nature, fire, things like that, everything can be amended. So there is that in the agreement. If we go to the bottom of page 6 is when it kind of refers again to the attachment. And that again is the information that we'll walk through in the next document, which has the majority of information. The bottom of page 7 is the TIF request, which is that 400,000, and that is primarily for the lift station and backup generator. So just touching on that, they would be, the developer, Voss Plumbing and Heating, would be investing in the street, sewer, water, paying for the electric, so they're investing well over $1 million into this property to then market lots. All right, so if we go to that next tab, Dominic, this one tab over, there we go. So this is the attachment that has a lot of the details in it, because again, that development agreement is a pretty standardized document. So if you scroll down just a little bit, go to item number 2. So in this, you know, they being the developer, Voss, would be getting the entire Sumstone property minus lots 15 and lot 16. Those are the 2 lots Sumstone is maintaining to build spec houses on. The Bossard and Roeder property is not included in this agreement. That's on the east side of the property. The property is going to be purchased by DVK, which is Voss. If we go on to the next page, item number 5, it again outlines the purchase price of $238,000, and then it goes into conveyance of property to the city. So part of this agreement with them is they need to plat the property, and then after they plat, they will then convey the quarry to the city for wellhead protection and public open space, and that would be for that walking trail. They would convey property along 490th Avenue to the EDA for future development, because they're only concerned right now with phase 1, which is kind of the west phase. And then they would convey to the EDA that approximately 2.2 acres for the market rate apartment, which is south of the well, kind of right where the access is going into Sumstone. 9 outlines that they're responsible for platting. 10 outlines that they have to have a preliminary plat to the Planning Commission by June 14th. So they're planning on getting on this right away. You could go final plat right away, but they might make some small changes to what the EDA has developed, and that is up to the developer to finalize that plat, and they're also paying for finalization of the plat. Number 12 has some high-level specifications of what they have to perform for the street and culverts for the private driveways, water main, sewer main. So just some high-level information. DGR has the specs for this. They would be working on DGR to finalize those. So the Utility Commission and, you know, Street Department, other department head staff will be able to sign off on this. So it has to meet minimum specifications that will be outlined by department heads. So the just touching on this, the lake lots would come in as a plat, the back lots would come in as a planned unit development. The installation of sewer is a critical part of this. When I get to the Apollo development agreement, so that's with the apartments, so this is for the subdivision, but we do outline that sewer has to be installed by Voss for the 44 unit market rate apartment. That has to be done by June 2023. That's in number 14. And then also 15 outlines access. And then there's also a reverter clause in here. So anytime the EDA gets involved with development, there's also always a reverter clause. It's a statutory requirement. And item number 19, when we get to that, goes into more detail, but it outlines additional payments. And if we want to go, you know, to 19 right now, if, you know, they're not done by a specific date for that sewer for the market rate apartment, there's a payment of $155,000 that is due. That would cover putting in sewer for that project. And then if they're not done by October 1st, 2025, they would owe a sum of $500,000. So that is our safety for the city. So the EDA, along with city administrator, you know, we went through and created a pretty good projection of what this project would look like. I shared earlier that, you know, after we pay out TIF to Voss and you pay out TIF to Apollo for the apartment, over that 20-year period, you know, you're looking at $2.4 million of excess increment. So, you know, like Commissioner Jason shared earlier, is that, you know, there is a lot of new tax increment generated from this. Item number 25, again, outlines the 400,000 that's requested in TIF. And then I would want to go to item number 31, which is if there is a termination clause for the developer in this, so they also have an out if needed. So, you know, that's only if there's certain things that are met on the property regarding if contaminants were found. But they, as part of the redevelopment grant, that's part of that is covered in that bid document. So if we recall, the bid for the demolition of the plant is covered by the state grant, that $424,900. That is outlined in that bid contract, and Voss got that. So that is similar language to there. Okay. So that it is a resolution. I can answer any questions that you have in regards to this. And then, you know, Marv, Jim, and Dominic were all at the EDA meeting, so they could also provide some input if they'd like.
I'll ask for council questions, or Marv, did you want to make an opening comment?
Well, I would just say that, you know, it took some time to get to this evening where we have a development agreement. One, I was a little concerned because of the COVID and supply chain issues and fuel and material costs. But the developer is more than willing to go ahead. So I'm all for it. I guess that it's what we've been trying to accomplish for quite some time now, and it answers another one of our needs for housing. So it's great.
And I think would like to specify the developer's pretty excited about it. So, I mean, when I talk with them, it's not just, oh, it's another project or it's another job. They're excited about doing the project.
I would agree. I talked to one of the developers during the EDA meeting and seemed very upbeat, and what they will build, they want to point to it and say, we built that. I thought that was a pretty straightforward comment. Jim, I wanted to give you the opportunity. You're also on the EDA.
Oh, you know how I feel about it, so no, I'd rather not. You know, I hate to lose that part of the lake. Yeah, but that's me. That's not. I haven't really had any comments other than that. So.
Okay, thank you, Jim. And I do think, you know, just giving you my opinion, we've worked on this a long, long time. And as Marv says, you know, and so I want to give every opportunity to council members to ask any further questions. Marv?
I would just add that our number one goal, even in the start of this, was not going to the general fund, and by the use of the TIF dollars, and that we're able to do that. So that's great.
Absolutely a critical thing all through this, through the whole process. It was important to the group that worked on it to start this, and to Drew. Steve has been a very financially knowledgeable person that's been involved in this to make sure that to the best of our true ability that we came through without spending general fund dollars on this project. And you can see with, you know, and this is only with, you know, it's maybe it's a little bit of assumption, but this thing builds out, which I truly believe it will fully. It's not in our hands, but it's on the developers. I think that was a critical part of this whole thing. You know, and we're providing some TIF. Excess TIF increment over $2 million after this thing is built out, I think is outstanding. That can go into other things that maybe another development, you know, that comes up within the city. So I think there's positives all the way around. I've always been very supportive, and I continue to do that. So additional council questions?
Yes, I was just wondering if you could explain a little bit more about the temporary roadway that they were putting in, living up in that area? I'm just a little concerned, like when that's going to be put in.
So surface parking for the apartment access off Conwood Lake Drive. North of the well, Sumstone has a possessory period, so the plan would be to establish Sumstone's new access north of the well. That would go to their plant. Well, the 44-unit market rate apartment has underground parking, and that underground parking accesses to the east. So they would just access what Sumstone uses as a temporary access that goes north of the well and then accesses off Cottonwood Lake Drive. So it all depends on Sumstone's timeline for being able to get their plant done in the North Wyndham Industrial Park. They do have 1 year that they can possess this property. But then we can get started on the apartment. The apartment build is 1 year. The apartment covers buying the property for that change in tax base, so that's our big thing there. And that access would just be a temporary access that would be very similar looking to what their access is right now, but it'd be north of the well and kind of come across where those concrete bunkers are. So that's kind of about the best I can explain that. Is there any other questions on that?
But thank you, Lisa. I think that's an important question also is there's a lot of timing issues going with this whole project.
Well, and two, like those roads are not in great condition right now. So with the equipment coming in and, for the apartments, is that going to put more strain on the streets and, you know what I mean?
As part of the redevelopment project, they'll be utilized mostly on-site materials. So it'd be crushing concrete on-site, using that for the base for the concrete. They'll use the crushed concrete for the base for the road. Once you get Sumstone out of there, you're gonna have less truck traffic. There's gonna be residential traffic. But then that section of Cottonwood Lake Drive is in the TIF district. So then, when we do street projects, we could potentially, depending on when there's funds available, you could forward fund it and then reimburse the city for that portion of Cottonwood Lake Drive. The previous council talked about, the parking lot at the community center, other things like that.
Yeah, that was an important part of the previous council took that action to make sure that that road was in there if and when this project would ever go forward. So there's potential of regrading or even paving the ballpark parking area, that gravel road. It encompasses that. I forget exactly how much it all encompasses, but the community center parking lot for a re-asphalting or mill and overlay or something like that. So there was a lot of consideration a council and a half ago that went into this too for that original TIF district establishment. Other comments? Okay. We are I'm going to call for the vote on the development agreement with DVK Diversified. This is a resolution. And Drew?
Do you still need to introduce the resolution in second and then vote, or no? Yep.
We're going to, if we have a motion to introduce it.
I would introduce the resolution approving assistance to DVK Diversified LLC.
Second.
Introduced by Marv, seconded by Jason to introduce this resolution. Any further comments or questions? One more time. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, I'm going to call the roll. Grunig.
Yes.
Farag.
Yes.
Quaid.
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
And that resolution carries. Thank you. Next item, I am going to switch to the Apollo agreement, I believe.
We're going to go to the second tab first.
Sorry. Okay,
So on page 47 is the memo outlining information here. So Apollo Development LLC, they're proposing to build the market rate apartment. When I just kind of high level again on the TIF, as outlined in the memo, they're requesting 13,500 a unit in TIF. If we recall, on the Lakeside apartment, we were at $12,777 a unit, so that's very comparable, especially since costs have went up, you know, on a lot of different things. They are paying for the property, and they are paying for a portion of the lift station. So they would be, a significant user of that lift station, so they're paying for a portion of that. So when you total those up, that includes their total TIF request is $790,000, but they are paying $60,000 for the lift station. So it's lift station plus some interest on that, and then also a land payment of that $136,400. So when you look at their base TIF request is that $13,500 a unit, which is $594,000. So now we can jump to the development agreement if you'd like.
okay,
So we go to page 2, please. The compliance period is 25 years for this, and that relates back to, we have a similar covenant proposed for this property, that it be a market rate apartment for 25 years. That's recorded on the property. That's similar to Lakeside. The completion date, they're planning to, have this done within 12 months of starting construction, and that construction start time depends on when we can start demolition out there, but they can have their plant operable while the apartment gets going as well, as long as we create that temporary access that we previously talked about north of the well. But they would have until January 1st, 2025 to complete the project. If you go to page 3, please. 3 outlines minimum improvements. That's in section 2.3. We'll get to that in just a minute. A lot of the minimum improvements are outlined are similar to what Lakeside had. The purchase price for the property is underneath the purchase price of $136,400. The total TIF compensation is that $790,400. I previously just broke that down. The termination date on page 4, that's the length of the district. And then I just like to state that, that can stay out there, or we could decertify depending on what we are trying to generate for excess increment for other projects. So, the street or parking lots, other things like that. On page 4, they also outline the unavoidable delays. That's again with bad weather, fire, different things like that. This is, again, a pretty standardized document. So I'm going to skip to section 2.3, and that's on page 7. So they are proposing a 44-unit market rate apartment, but in the agreement we want to provide some flexibility. So there we outline 40 units. Underneath B, we have the same language as Lakeside, so quality exterior siding, 20-year minimum for the roof, stone and masonry on the outside, quality brand windows, durable signage. In C, with discussions with emergency management, a regular size gurney, that was something that was very important for the elevator size capacity, and then also utilizing Wyndham Net. The existing Lakeside apartment is a giga building. That's a really nice thing to be able to market, especially I know that HR departments in Wyndham for larger employers do share that. So, that's something that people definitely like and have the access to because of Wyndham Net. Section 2.4 goes into the infrastructure, just outlining what's available and what needs to be added. Specifically, that sewer main is what needs to be added. There's other infrastructure along Cottonwood Lake Drive, but we outline again that payment of $155,000. That if for some reason Voss didn't get done with the sewer, that there'd be a payment that goes to the EDA, and then the payment would go to the Apollo developer, and then they would be able to put in their own sewer. It also identifies that $50,000 for their portion of the lift station. If we go to section 3.2, I didn't point this out in the previous one, but they do pay for the administrative costs for the TIF district and then also establishing the cost for the legal costs associated with this. So that's a good thing. And section 4.2 is where the actual TIF amount is outlined, which is that 790,400. And section 5.2, you know, goes into construction plan details. This does have to be approved by the building official. It does have to meet our building code requirements there. The department does come in as a planned unit development. And then if we went to section 9.1 is specifically where it outlines the minimum period for the market rate, non-subsidized rental housing. So this is that covenant that we record. So that is outlined in a couple different spots there. This was again presented to the EDA at the EDA meeting. We went through that in more detail there, but I can answer any questions that anyone has.
Once again, I'll ask for questions from the council. One thing that I think I seen it in the memo part of it was we're talking about a $5 million building here. So impressive. So council, questions?
So you mentioned the 25 years of market rate has to stay at that. Should they transfer at some point down the road before the 25-year mark to another company? How would that be enforced?
The covenant transfers with the
The
property.
covenant transfers with the property. Thank you.
Is their normal business model where they own and operate and provide a on-site manager like the other one?
Yeah, they do have a property management company. So Apollo, we've touched on this on EDA, I'm not sure at city council level. Apollo also did the American in town. So they have, you know, some former build experience in Wyndham, but with their other apartments and other properties, they do have a project management arm. So they take care of that.
Other questions? Lisa?
What would happen if within the 25 years they need to go to subsidized housing?
They wouldn't be allowed to unless that covenant got removed. So that would have to be something that would come to that council at that time, and you could just not allow it.
Other questions?
I think I asked the same question on the apartment building, and they said all they'd have to do is come back and ask the council. So it would be up to the council too, like Drew said. They can't just up and change it themselves.
Okay. Jenny?
I just feel the way things are going now with housing, and I don't know that we see it changing too much in the future, is that the market rate apartments is what we really need in this community. There's so many people that are coming to town, and the wages that they're making, they cannot live in the income-based apartments. So before the apartments that were out at Cottonwood Lake that did just get built, we didn't have any apartments in town that if people earned over a certain amount of money that they could even rent. And so that really was a damper, and so that was a great thing when we got this apartment complex up there, and it filled up very quickly. And that is, you know, it's hard to find a house to buy, and a lot of people when they first move to town want to rent before they buy too, to know that they like their job or they like being here and those kind of things, which we all hope they will. But I really think that I don't think we have to fear with having market rate apartments. The one that we currently have out at Cottonwood Lake and then this new one that would be built, I really foresee these being apartment complexes that are going to stay full with people, and I don't see them in the future going to income-based because I think we have plenty of the income based in town. This market rate apartment is what we really need.
I concur. I think one other thing, I think we have at least some in our population that are looking for this type of upscale type facility. I think it will also open up other opportunities for people to buy potentially homes within our community, and I think that's an important part too.
Just an informational thing. When you have an apartment like that, a market rate apartment with 35 or 40 is the minimum of number of units.
Be 44.
44, it will be, okay, yeah, because they obviously want to make their money too. What level of occupancy do you need to have it cash flow in general? I'm not asking for too specific.
I think generally, and this was outlined in the Minnesota housing application for market rate housing, is about 10% is what developers plan on for turnover. And like an example that the EDA has talked about at the last couple of meetings is our River Bluff townhomes have performed pretty well the last couple of years because there hasn't been turnover. Because, you know, there's just a lot of demand, so that person hasn't chose to, you know, try to find something else because there's not a lot out there. The other thing to point out, too, is getting an apartment like this, you know, it takes time to find a developer and find a property that works and get them to do the investment. But when you're looking at how competitive the rents are compared to a fourplex or something like that, so if you're a smaller town in southwest Minnesota, you may not be able to attract a market rate apartment like this, but if we attract it and get it in Windham, you might see more seniors coming to Windham to retire that are maybe someone from a Mountain Lake or Westbrook or, you know, Lakefield, because they just don't have, you know, that unit, and a similar fourplex would be much more expensive than in a unit in an apartment like this, because the economies of scale are a lot better.
Thanks.
Any other comments? Okay, once again, we're to that important stage here. Someone care to introduce the resolution approving the Apollo Development Agreement?
I'll make the motion.
I would second the resolution.
This resolution introduced by Jim, seconded by Jason. One last call for final comments or questions. Seeing none, we'll do the roll call. Farag,
Yes.
Grunig,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Quaid,
Yes.
and that carries unanimously as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Okay, back to tab 2. Okay, I think Andy is up next. We have well, he will be up next. Petition, are you taking care of an annexation one too?
Yeah, I can, I'm somewhat familiar with it, so I can
Thank
answer
you.
questions on it if you need.
Okay. So in your packet is, we've had a petition submitted by Gene and Donna Pankinen and Cottonwood County, the petitioners. This is for a portion of parcel 0822-10100. And this is the county in anticipation of potentially building a new county highway department facility. So that petition, this evening, I believe the city council needs to take action to accept the annexation request, I think is all that is needed this evening. Andy, if you want to clarify any points, please do.
Yeah, maybe scroll up just a little bit. The memo should say what we're, accept by motion a petition for annexation. So the process moving forward, if the council chooses to accept it, is then the next step, I believe, is a joint annexation agreement between the city and the township that the parcel is in. So at this point, we're just basically accepting the annexation. They have it described as tracks A and B. So there's two separate tracks that they're talking about, and the reason for that is just to make it a contiguous tract of land that's going to be annexed into the city. It does join city limits right now.
Is there a chance we could see that, that page that has the lines marked out?
I should be able to see that on here, right there. Maybe a little smaller.
So this area on the top of the page, the north side there would be, is that County Road 15, what we call the truck route, kind of east of the golf course. That's that area. To the west of this is single-family homes that access Matthew Drive. So that's kind of the area of town that we're in.
Then on the south part, is that next to Red Leaf Court area?
Nope, the south
Or
part
is
there
that-
is also single-family homes that
it
are
is.
on Kalish
Oh,
Road.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, we don't
Callis
quite
Road.
get down to the Red Leaf Court area.
Right.
That'd be farther south.
Okay.
The portion there that's not hatched on the bottom right-hand corner is part of this parcel, but that's going to be retained by Pankinen. So it is quite a large parcel. We're just doing this portion of it. The county is working on getting surveys and land descriptions.
Yep, there maybe is a better idea. I think also that this, I guess, has conditions on it that for zoning and such, that has to happen.
Right. If the council accepts the annexation, the planning commission would apply a zoning district to it, which we did discuss this at the last planning commission meeting. So included in your packet were the minutes from that where we talked about zoning designations. Most likely this use would also then have to be approved as a conditional use. So their letters talks about conditional use permit, and that this is all, the purchase is all conditioned on the annexation, the conditional use permit, and everything moving forward. That's all yet to come.
And I think that's part of having that joint annex application, but that both the current landowner and the county, which is the other party to this agreement. Okay. So does the council wish to take action and accept the petition to, let me see, the
Petition for annexation.
petition for annexation?
I did have a quick question before we get to that point. Is there a downside at all, or anything that could be perceived as a negative for this this movement?
For annexing
For
land.
for annexing land, is there anything that I'm not aware of that might be part of it in the future?
As far as infrastructure goes, we're able to serve it pretty well with the infrastructure that we have. We do have sewer, and I believe water is very close to this property, so we're right there. That was part of the reason the county chose this property. They want to annex into the city because they want to be able to utilize our water, our sewer, our high-speed internet. All of those things are positives for them, and this is a tract of land that adjoins city limits. It's on a county highway, which is good for them, and our services are readily available for them.
Will they be mostly using the county highway and not the gravel?
Yeah, we haven't seen a site plan yet, but the property that they're purchasing doesn't go all the way to the gravel, so their only access to a public way would be to the highway. I think there's a little over 300 feet of frontage on the highway.
And do the surrounding properties get notices of an annexation?
To this point, they haven't. They will hear for sure when we do the conditional use permit hearing, and then that would most likely happen at our next planning commission. If things progress, that's kind of the schedule we're on. So they would at that time.
And I believe there'll be discussion with the township also for the orderly part of this annexation, agreeing on a amount of, I guess, tax base that we receive and that sort of thing.
I'll make the motion that we accept the petition for annexation.
Second.
Motion by Jim, second by Jason. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. We have some planning commission recommendations, if I can get on the right page. And Andy, please tell me where you want me here.
Right there's a pretty good place to start. So I have a couple items in your packet. The first one is an application for a variance. This was submitted by the EDA as owners of a lot in the North Windham Industrial Park and Semstone Concrete Materials as the purchasers. This is the lot in the North Windham Industrial Park that Semstone is purchasing for the relocation of their concrete plant. And as part of that, they've got a silo that could potentially be up to 80 feet tall. So this variance application is requesting a height variance for that silo. Right there's a good one to be on. So it's not real clear on here where this is, but kind of in the middle of the screen is their building. Just to the left of your mouse, that's their building. Right in that area is kind of where this silo is going to go. It's potentially 80 feet tall. It is fairly centralized to their site. One thing I did look at was kind of like a fall radius, right? If it did happen to tip over, it would be completely on their property. It wouldn't go over an adjoining property or the street or anything like that. And it is an integral part of their operations is having this silo that the cement trucks back underneath, and then it gravity feeds the dry cement powder into their trucks when they're batching. This is just a side view of the silo. It was a variance application. With that, we did have to conduct a public hearing. We did that at our last planning commission meeting. We did not receive any public comments at or prior to the meeting, and the planning commission did recommend unanimously the council approve the variance application. This page here, I included this in the packet just because it was something we talked about at planning commission and something that I looked into. This is our airport safety zone map. There's kind of a red shaded area and a blue shaded area, and then that yellow ring right there is what we would call safety zone C. That does touch a portion of this property. It doesn't get to where the silo is, but I did kind of run the numbers and just see where we were at. If we would have been in the safety zone, would this be allowed? We're still well underneath any height that would be restrictive for that safety zone C. Until we get to an elevation of over 1,500 feet, we wouldn't be concerned. This silo, with the elevation of ground elevation plus the height of the silo, we're still at 1,485 feet, I think. So we're outside of the safety zone, and we're well under a height that would be an issue for the airport.
Council wish to take action? This is simply would require a motion to approve the variance request.
I'd make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion to approve by Marv, second by Jenny. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is a rezoning, remainder of Lot 6, Block 2, Windham Industrial Park subdivision.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is a rezoning. I think if you scroll down, there should be an aerial view. Let's go one more, maybe. Maybe one more. We'll get to a good one here, right there, that one. So on this one, this is the what we call the EDA spec building site. It's the lot on the end of North Reading Avenue, north of the community center. The drawing that's up there now, what's outlined in yellow is the entire lot. That is Lot 6 of Block 2. The heavy blue line that kind of goes through the middle of the property, everything to the right-hand side of that has already been rezoned. We did that last year, 2 years ago. That is already zoned R3 multifamily housing. The EDA is working with a developer now that wants to purchase the entire property for development. And so the EDA is requesting now that we rezone the remaining portion of this lot. So this specific application is just the left side of that blue line within the yellow boundary, the remainder of Lot 2. With this, that entire lot then would be zoned properly for R3 multifamily housing zoning district. So the request is to rezone from I1 light industrial to R3. Planning Commission held a public hearing on this at their last meeting. We didn't receive any comments during the meeting. Had one call prior to the meeting. I think that person commented that they didn't think it was a good idea, but they weren't opposed to it, and they made no objection to the rezoning. Planning Commission did recommend on a 4-2 vote to recommend the council approve the rezoning from I1 to R3. This application was also submitted by the EDA as owners of the property.
Any questions? Jason?
And the access to this property has just one entrance and exit?
Yes, so from the south is North Reading Avenue. That is the only entrance into this property.
Other questions?
How about can we still, 19th Street, can we vacate that? I know there's utilities under there, but a couple of years ago, before this apartment building and all that was built, a lot of the issues that were brought up to me was that it is a street. It just hasn't been developed. And people are worried about coming from High Life or wherever and turning and going down past Feral Gas and around past, and rather than coming all the way down to Toro through the roundabouts and so forth. And they think the traffic, because there are some kids living on that. There's people that are kind of nervous about the traffic.
Yeah, I know that came up with one of the other rezoning applications. It did come up again at this meeting. One of the planning commissioners asked that question. 19th Street is platted. It's not opened. The only answer I could give them is the city has no intention of opening it. Can it be vacated? I suppose that it could be, but I don't know who would even have to bring that application forward. We have sewer and water lines under there. We'd have to maintain those easement areas for sure. But like I say, the only answer I could give is that there's no plans to open that at this time.
Other questions? Okay, this simply is the,
So this is we'd be asking for a motion to do first reading of an ordinance amending this zoning district. So this would come back at the next council meeting for approval of the second reading of an ordinance amendment.
I'd make that motion to approve the first reading of the ordinance number 193, second series, the rezoning of the remainder of the lot 6.
I would second.
okay, that motion to regard this as the first reading of number 193, second series, made by Jason, second by Marv, was it? Okay, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, in your packet, we are going to talk about, okay, there's the ordinance we just did. Okay, this is the Trunk Highway 60 corridor implementation plan. And this resolution of support, Steve went over this with me briefly before he went on vacation. I think the one thing that I see Steve put in that this resolution does not financially commit the city of Windham to local match or contribution to fulfill the implementation plan. Pretty a good catch by Steve. At this point, you know, things can change also. So did you have some comments on that, Drew?
I mean, just to share that Steve and I were on this committee, you know, looked at a lot of different things, ruled out a couple different things that were just, hey, we're not open to that. J-turns being one of them. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done for finalizing a plan. So there's some plans out there that we think are all right. There's some plans that aren't so all right. You know, the no build option is not a bad option. So, you know, when you're talking to someone, no build is still an option. So it's not like that's ruled out. The biggest thing to stress, one thing that is ruled out is no bypass. There's not going to be a bypass. That's not in the corridor study. It's not something MnDOT's entertaining. So that is a big thing, and I don't think that was stressed enough with when MnDOT presented. But so there's, you know, some scenarios out there that work, and you know, we can talk through that, and that'll be done during the scoping phase. So there's going to be additional input that's needed. It was, you know, pretty in-depth process. You know, you didn't get everywhere you wanted to get to, but we have a plan now that is got some options out there. So.
Okay, very good. This is a resolution. There was a draft sent to the city, but as I said, Steve made some additions to that in regards to the city of Windham specifically. So with that, I would ask if there's someone would care to introduce the resolution.
I would introduce the resolution in support of the Trunk Highway 60 corridor study implementation plan.
Second.
Resolution introduced by Jason, seconded by Jim. Any further discussion or comments? Seeing none. I think we're on the next one here. Roll call. Quaid,
Yes.
Farag,
Yes.
Grunig,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
And that resolution carries. Thank you, Drew. Okay. Next on the agenda is pet license and boarding rate change. There is a resolution in your packet. This was also, I think there was a memo on here. Okay. That, and to point out that this does not change the animal license fee and impound fee. They will not change. Part of the reasoning too is that if the police department gets a call, we think it's a valuable asset to have a dog tag on that's licensed for the proper return to the owner. Was something that Steve had added to this. And also, the addition was to add a 25, let me see, I think it's 25-year, lifetime license, excuse me. But a lifetime license. And for the benefit of, by doing this is we want to see pets licensed. So the resolution that is that I would recommend someone to introduce covers those changes in specifically boarding fees to cover cost, I guess, at the what would that be called? At the compound. So, any questions from the council? If you do, we'll have to call Steve. Okay.
This Out of curiosity, I wonder how many cats are licensed. Nobody here, I'm sure, can answer that, but I'm just curious because there's a bunch of cats out there. Can you catch them, Chief?
Chief says he could, I think was the condition on that, but I don't know, but I do see some stray cats running around without any license tags on them. I mean, I've got a couple that roam my neighborhood, but, anyway, any other questions, comments? Okay. Let me see. Yes, actually, that is resolution because we are changing. So,
I'd introduce this resolution establishing rates, charges, and fees for pet licenses, boarding, and impound fees.
I'll second.
introduced by Jason, second by Jim. Any discussion? Okay, Quaid,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Brunig,
Yes.
Farag.
Yes.
And that resolution passes. Thank you. Jason, next item is yours. And I'll just let you, so I don't do something wrong for you here, is we'll let you introduce or tell us about it.
So this is a longitudinal, it runs parallel with the tracks more or less. So we've been trying to get this agreement from the railroad for 13 months. It took 3 different plans. Railroad did not want any poles on their property for this one. So like I may have said, this does not cross the tracks. It just runs at a 45-degree angle across railroad property where they have a 100-foot section. We're leaving a 50-foot section where they have right-of-way, and then they have a short little section of 100 feet where we had to get across there. There was a house in that section there. This would be right behind Ron's truck repair, McDonald's on 6th Street, kind of, on the east side of the tracks.
Am I on the right spot here? for
Yeah, yep. You can come down
you? Okay.
right there. So we got to run. We're gonna be running down Hale, which is actually in railroad property, but they allow residents to access it. So we've had to secure all the private easements along there to get this done as well. But so it's a very expensive easement. We sent some emails out to the commission members to make sure they are okay with the amount. We did kind of want to move somewhat quickly, as we still would like to get to bidding possibly this year, get some prices locked in before more increases, more delays on this project. Started this whole transmission project back in 2019. So it's been a long process of easements, dealing with the railroad and some design. But so it's a $25,000, $670, 220-foot easement that doesn't even go over tracks. Of course, it'll come with, we'll have to buy liability insurance, protective railroad liability insurance, and we'll also have to have a flagger present. We'll have to pay his wages when we're stringing the wire across their property.
Is it Jason?
A quick question. You mentioned about the $2,000 for protective liability insurance. Is that a one-time payment or is that per year?
That's a one-time payment for
One-time,
this
one-time.
crossing. So
Okay.
we have to buy it. We have 4 crossings we're doing, so we have to have it on each crossing.
Okay.
So this is the 4th final permit of all the ones that are required.
And with that said, what was I going to ask? Your commission, no response. I mean, everybody is in favor of us going forward with it. You sent out the dollar amount, they're okay. So that's on concurrence. I don't think we have to do this conditional. You'll report back to them that the city did at your next utility commission. So Does that work?
Yep, and next Wednesday is our commission meeting, so.
Okay, or do you want it conditional upon their approval? Okay.
No, they were all good with it.
Okay, so with that, I would say that we need approval for the Union Pacific longitudinal wireline agreement.
I would make that motion to approve that.
Second.
Motion Marv, second Jason. Any further discussion or comments?
And I just want to state, obviously, the amount is not a bartering situation. They simply say, this is how much you're going to pay if you want it. And so just want to clarify.
Jason probably already talked him down a few thousand, so it's probably good. All right.
There was crossing studies that were done, so on whether it was going to interfere with the crossing signals. There was induction studies done on the track, whether the track was going to be induced voltage on it. So they did quite a few studies, or told us they had to do quite a few studies. So
And the dollar number is expensive, but historically, it's numbers we've seen all along when you deal with the railroad.
Okay. Anything further? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Do you have anything else for us this evening?
I can just, if you've driven by the front of the power plant, you might notice they started digging the tank out. They dug down to the top today, so this was kind of the first official digging day. We have been working over the last 2 weeks of emptying the fuel out. We've sold the fuel to a couple farmers, and the city of Mountain Lake took some of the fuel into their tank for generation. So,
Okay.
April 15th is their deadline, so for substantial completion.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that as well. Jason, you had a question?
I did have a curiosity question. What happens to that tank? Does it just go to scraps? Or what will they do with that tank after it's removed?
I think it just gets scrapped. So tomorrow morning, guys will actually go into that 12-foot by 50-foot tank, and they'll scrub it clean before they can roll it out. And so,
Sounds good. Thanks, Jason. Okay, next we have some personnel committee recommendations. I almost had to talk some councilmen and women into doing the first one, accepting a resignation. One of them even asked me if do we have to do that? And you don't have to, but you're not going to be able to force them to work, was my answer. So, Drew, did you want to make a comment first?
So this is a very hard decision to make. It's been very enjoyable working for Wyndham because there's been a lot of projects to work on, and it's, very fast paced with, a number of things that we're working on. So the EDA board and city council has been good, and, we've got a lot of projects done. There's a lot of projects still to be worked on, and that's one reason for the second item there for the contracted services. But this was an opportunity that kind of came up, and they approached me and kind of talked through that, and ended up making a decision to try something new with a bank position. So, this was something that came up and wasn't really looking, and they were recruiting me on that, and thought it'd be something to try, but really enjoyed the past 6 years, and it's been, fast paced and a lot going on.
With that, my appreciation, I guess, Drew, for the years that you've been here. It has been very busy. It seems like just maybe a year or two. But we've done a lot of good things with Drew's help. I know I sure appreciate it. Council members want to make any comment before we get this over with?
I'd like to say I have been very happy with the concerted effort you've put into your three main tasks. And even your resignation letter, there's no typos. It's very professionally done, and I appreciate that. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I too would like to say that I've appreciated all the time working with Drew and the EDA. He's definitely on the go all the time, so he's been a real workhorse for the city of Wyndham, and I'm truly sorry to see him go, and I'm just wondering if anybody's ever tried denying a resignation.
Marv, you could be the first one to try. Any other comments?
Can I make a motion to table this until next?
Yeah. Jim?
Well, I appreciate, when I came in new on the council, you took time to explain things to me. I had to slow you down sometimes because you are just so passionate and excited about the work that you do that sometimes people gotta like slow you down, like, hold on, Drew, I can't even comprehend as fast as you can explain things to me. But you always took the time to do that, and especially with big numbers and projects and stuff, when we're talking these extravagant amount of money, I was, sometimes that's just way over my head, and you'd take the time to break that down for me, so thank you very much. And banking, you're gonna do excellent in that, so I wish you well.
Thank you.
I just want to say, best of, luck in your new endeavors. Or actually, much success.
Okay.
Congratulations, Drew, and in response to Jason's question, I heard it was his wife that did the typing.
Pass on our thanks to your wife. All right. With that, I do have to ask, is there a motion to accept the resignation of EDA Director Drew Hagee?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Jim, second by Lisa to accept Drew Hagee's resignation. Any discussion? We've had it. We've said our piece, I think. I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. And the next item is the Community and Economic Development Services contract that was in your paper. I would like to, maybe prior to acting on that, is Jim, could you maybe take a chair at the table here? I'm known for putting people on the spot occasionally. So with this, everyone, this is Jim Hartshorn. This is the agreement that was in your packet regarding Jim. And I would just invite you, prior to us taking action, I know that you have signed this, and we appreciate, I've worked with you already a couple times, I guess, and been part of meetings. So, welcome aboard. Maybe tell the council a little bit about yourself, if you would.
I just learned something new right now. I got to turn the mic on, so that's good. So, well, thank you very much. Again, I'm Jim Hartshorn. I've been involved in economic development for 31 years. I spent the last 18 and a half for the city of West St. Paul, Minnesota. So I am from a small community. I grew up in a little town of Washburn, Wisconsin, which is about 2,000 people. It's up by Bayfield and Ashland for folks that I always have to explain where it's at because they're like, where? Because it's a small. But so I know the charms of living and working in a small town, so I really missed it all those years. I was involved in new industrial projects as well as retention and expansion. I worked with retail development, a number of different types of housing projects, multi-housing projects. From senior development to market rate to affordable, and all of the different, there must be 100 different types of housing projects with condominiums and condos and partial condos, things like that. But I've worked with a number of those in my 31 years. And so I'm really happy when Steve asked me about this opportunity to come and serve the city of Wyndham for a while. So I'm very happy to be here. So if you ever have any questions, please call me. So if I don't know the answer, which I probably won't right away, but I'll get you an answer at some point. So.
Okay, appreciate that, Jim.
Yep.
Council, any quick questions for Jim? Otherwise, you've seen the contractual agreement in the packet. I think we'll tackle that one first, unless the Personnel Committee had any comments. Probably more so on the next item. So, with that, does somebody care to make a motion to approving the contractual services agreement?
I make a motion to approve the contractual agreement with Jim Hartshorn.
I'll second.
Motion by Jason, second by Jenny. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. With that, we will talk a little bit here about a recommendation is to approve the advertisement for the new development director, EDA director position. It was brought to the personnel and discussed, reviewed by personnel and by Steve. I guess what do you call it? That was in your packet here. Job description, and identified all the items that EDA director would be responsible for, and to look at that position being filled. So, and I believe it is a recommendation to move forward with the advertisement process. Is that correct, personnel? Yes. Okay. Did you want to?
Yes, when we talked at personnel, we were looking at having this, temporary position here because we have so many projects and so many things going that we wanted to really make sure we had somebody kind of overlap before Drew was gone, so we'd keep things hopefully running very smoothly. And welcome aboard, Jim, and I hope that things can go smoothly in this transition. But really having somebody here, knowing that with everything, all jobs, when we're advertising for things, it's hard to fill nowadays. So we wanted to make sure that we have something in between, but we want to get this advertised as soon as possible so that we can find the right person for this job.
Very good. Any other questions?
Because, because it is a pretty busy time, we also need to have developers and people interested in the city of Wyndham having a contact and not having a gap in the EDA. So it works really well to have a contracted individual and to keep that continuity there. And
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we have a good person that you guys approved here to take us into that next step. So I also hope that the council will now approve that advertising to start that process. And council, do you wish to act on that?
I'd like to welcome Jim on board, and I'd like to make a motion to approve the advertisement for development director position.
And I would second.
That motion was by Jason and seconded by Marv to start the advertisement process. Any further comments? I'm sorry, Lisa?
I'm sorry, I had a comment before. That was loud. No, I was just wondering if something for this advertisement would be that this individual would live in the town, in order to promote Wyndham, and to really live here and be part of it, to promote it.
My opinion is I would not make that a requirement, but that's my opinion. I think it would be hard to facilitate by making that a condition of employment. I don't know that some of these positions, and I don't know that you could actually dictate their living residence. Response time, maybe, things like that nature, but I think you would, I don't want to limit, I guess, be a limiting factor of you are required to live within city limits. I don't know if that's necessary. It may come to that, good question. But I would hate to speculate on whether that could be done. And it's not the question for me to answer. It would be something you would ask either personnel to look into it or Steve, but I guess I'm just sharing my opinion, and I think I know yours, and I can understand that, okay? But I'm looking at a more broad perspective of getting the right person that would lead us, just as Drew did. And Drew did not live in city limits, and I think he did an outstanding job. And very much, I do not know a day when I would try to, work with him. He's in the city of Windham. He's going to community events, all that whole process. And I'm very proud that we had an employee who cared that much about Windham, not living in town. So that's my comments. Others?
I would just say that I probably wouldn't be in favor of that as a condition of employment either, but $5 gas might accomplish that. So.
Yeah, good point. But that's noted, and I think that if you wanted to discuss that with Mr. Nasby when he returns, I think that'd be appropriate to do that. And if, that would be on a council agenda, I guess, to discuss. And if there's any prohibition to putting conditions like that on there. I don't know. Is that fair enough? Okay.
I've had several people say something similar. I know when I worked for the city, I had to work or live in the city limits where I lived, but that's been years ago. I don't know if you can make them do that anymore. And most of the comments I have gotten is, well, if they're going to take the city's money, why don't they pay taxes in the city? And that's about the only thing I can actually say that I could really agree with.
And I would say we already have several employees that live outside of city limits working for the city of Windham, and they're very good people doing their jobs in the city, responding as needed. We have firemen that live just outside of city limits. We have EMTs that work outside of city or that live outside of city limits. And this discussion, I think it's a good question. It can be discussed, but I would hope the council would just be okay with discussing it at a future, so we have some additional information. Okay. We haven't yet. No, I had cut Lisa off there in the midstream, so thank you for bringing it up. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the advertisement for development director position. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, mayor appointments, just had one. This to the Park and Rec Commission. And that is, my recommendation is to reappoint Brian Joyce to the Park and Rec Commission. He has agreed. And that's my recommendation if the council would concur.
Has anyone done a background check on this fellow?
If you would like to do that and ask him if we can first.
No, I'm good. Good.
Okay, you're good. All right. So was that a motion, Jason?
Yes, sir.
I'll second.
Motion, Jason, second. Lisa, to approve the appointment of Brian Joyce to the Park and Rec Commission. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. New business. Old business. Seeing none, we're down to council comments. And how about if I'll start and close this evening. First of all, thanks to the council and even some previous council members who took part in this whole housing projects that we've have completed and the ones yet to come. I think that this was a great meeting for that. It shows the progress that the city of Windham is doing in housing, and I very much appreciate all the comments. There's been good and bad through the process, so all those comments are good, constructive, and I applaud the council for taking the actions they did tonight. I would like to touch on another note. This one has to do with the Good Samaritan Center in Windham. It's a 100-year anniversary coming up, and on March 23rd they're going to have a kind of like a get-together, I guess, or celebration in honor of the 100 years, and they also have 10 residents that are turning 100 either this year or are over 100 currently in the Sogi building. So I think that's just a tremendous opportunity for our community to appreciate both Sogi, Good Samaritan Center, and also the residents that have achieved the 100-year mark. So I will be attending that event on behalf of the city, and I just truly appreciate everything that our that facility, the nurses, the CNAs, their staff, everything they do for people that are confined to that facility. So I wish them good luck. I will be there, and I just thought that's a great point to share with the council. Other than that, once again, thanks to all of you, and I'll turn how about the first mic goes to Jenny.
I just want to thank Drew again for his service to the city, and I think we're going to notice him missing a lot more in this community than just at city council meetings and EDA meetings, because Drew was involved in a lot of different organizations and meetings and groups, and you name it, you went to different things within the city and you saw Drew. So him leaving his position here, he's also going to be missed in a lot of other areas in our city.
Thank you. Lisa?
I wanted to give a shout out to the Windham Area Hospital and the Community Center, as well as the Dad's Belgian Waffles. They had a great turnout on Sunday. Also, last time I had said that the blood drive was on April 1st, but it is actually April 4th, and you can make your appointments by calling the lab at the hospital. Because of the COVID, they are requiring that you make an appointment. And then there will be another event there at the community center on April 10th. It is the Lions putting on a pancake breakfast. So hope everybody can go out and attend. Thanks.
Lisa, question for you. Does the blood drive, does that happen at the hospital then, or is that at, it does? So
Yes, and they are greatly in need of type O, but they need every type. And they are in desperate need of it. So this is a community event, so hopefully people can get out there and donate.
okay, thank you. Jim?
Well, I guess I'm just saying, Drew, it's kind of, we've had our moments, but, you're going to be missed, and hopefully it works out really good for you. So, and I'm still curious about those cats, Chief.
Marv?
I would again congratulate Drew and wish him well in his new ventures, so he's going to be definitely going to be missed.
Jason?
And once again, thank you so much. I wish everything good for you and your wife and your career. I did want to mention about the Legislative Action Day that City Administrator Nasby and I went to. We did meet with Senator Weber and Representative Hamilton, and we were able to talk to and have lengthier conversations with other legislators there, senators and representatives and other city mayors and the like. And it's a great time to connect, and I would encourage any council member in the future to attend maybe next year. It's a great opportunity.
Thank you. In closing, once again, thanks, Drew, for all your service to our community. And you leave behind a great bunch of department heads, too. So from all the staff and City Council, we've appreciated knowing you and your time spent here. So with that, unless anything else is on our agenda, which I see none, we'll adjourn this by unanimous consent.